I'm here with Nancy, and her daughter goes to Grand Island Public Schools and has Down syndrome, and we're just going to talk a little bit about some of her special needs, her barriers, and also what kind of inclusive environment that she is in. So, Nancy, thanks for meeting with me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
First and foremost, and I guess my first question is, what does inclusion mean to you as a parent with a child with special needs?
Well, inclusion means that my child is included. And when the younger they are, the easier it is for inclusion. Here in Grand Island, she got to go to a preschool that was in elementary setting, and they had peer models in her class, so that was good. Then when she went to elementary, that was really where the best inclusion was. I mean, she was in the classroom for most of the day. I mean, obviously she went to resource and had time with her special ed teacher, but she was always included in the classroom, all the field trips, all the programs, everything. And I was sharing with you earlier that those friendships that were fostered because of the inclusion and because she was in that regular classroom for most of the day, she still has to this day. Even though they might go to another school, she sees them at church, she sees them out in the community. They always say, "Hi, Serena," and are very friendly and kind. So I can't say enough for the wonderful beginning that she's had here at the Grand Island Public Schools. From her preschool,
Great.
She was very ready to go to kindergarten, and then those friendships and getting to know those kids throughout her elementary years was very good. Then, of course, once you get to middle school and high school, it's a little harder to include them in everything because they also have their educational needs that need to be met. And, you know, sitting in, you know, an algebra class is really not. Just
Sure.
because, I mean, you have to be careful. Oh, inclusion, just to include them, just to be including them, there has to be a purpose for it. And sitting in a math class that you're not going to get anything out of is not beneficial either. You have to, but, you know, art and music, those kinds, again, in middle school, she got to participate. You know, Mrs. Shack was wonderful. She was in every, you know, singing program, and she loved it. She knew all the words, she knew all the actions. You know, we only went to one, and then she went home. She didn't go to both performances because that would have been a little long. But again, you know, modification, everything in modification. But you know, art, PE, all of
Sure.
those kinds of things. Again, to be able to be included that way, she knew the kids all knew her. Hi, Serena, you know, those things were really very good. Here at senior high, again, a little bit harder more because now you're working on life skills. You're going to job sites, so you aren't, you know, able to be in a, you know, you'd say regular classroom, you know, as much of the time. But she goes to dance, you know, we go to dances, those kinds of things where she sees the kids. That's where I would probably maybe like to see a little bit more that, you know, maybe like at lunch or PE or just kids coming into their classrooms to help them with things, just so that they would get to know a few more kids that way, and the high school kids could get to know them too.
Sure.
So.
Okay. What do you feel are the biggest barriers to inclusion for your child?
Well, kind of what we just talked about as far as the high school setting, because there really wasn't so much for Serena in preschool and middle school. But of course, and again, she's on the higher level, their higher part of the spectrum, I guess, of Down syndrome, and she doesn't have the physical barriers. And I think a lot of times, sometimes the physical barrier sometimes can be a hindrance or a barrier to inclusion more so than, you know, when you're able to, you know, walk and get around and communicate a little bit better.
Right.
So I can't say that, you know, they're really, you know, for Serena, she was able to do, you know, pretty much everything that other kids do.
Good. Very good.
Yes.
What do you think you would change or get better to improve these barriers again?
Well,
Yeah.
and like I had mentioned earlier, I think at senior high, just for these kids, you know, for our kids to be, you know, with the other kids a little bit more than they are. And I know that's, again, as I said, more difficult because of their needs. And their educational needs have to be met. and especially with the life skills and the job sites and things.
Right.
So they have to be, away more. But, if they can be included in some classes, or just at lunch, or maybe even in a PE class, pairing
Right.
up, doing more pairing up that way.
Kind of
Because
buddies,
again,
buddy
yes,
system.
exactly. And so then when they're out in the hall, or they go to the dances, oh, hi, Joey, oh, it's so good to see you, how you doing? I mean, there's just more, just that being noticed, and oh, I know who you are, and just that, building those relationships, I think, is important. And maybe
Okay.
that might be something
Just a
that we
gateway
could
to
work
get
on.
them to
Yes.
get that.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
So, how involved do you have to be to help with the inclusion process of your own child?
Well, I think it's not only, and this is any parent, I think you have to be an advocate for your child, and you have to watch and just make sure that those things are happening.
Mhm.
But, with IEPs, and you have meetings, and again, easier elementary, I think it's easier for parents to be a little more involved in elementary, and to kind of see, you're a room mother, or I went on every field trip,
Right.
those kinds of things. I think it's just a little bit easier. Middle school, high school, maybe you don't feel as much a part, but you need to be. You have to, get in there and see, how, what does the day look like for your child, or are they having those interactions? What does the, lunchroom and thing, those kind of things look like? So that, they're treated respectfully, and that they're having some time for those interactions.
Okay. So in terms of transportation, is there a bus to pick her up, or does a family member pick him up? I mean, you mentioned you're retired, so you
Yeah,
can't
well,
do that
yeah,
right now.
transportation, when she, a bus, a little, one of the little mini buses, when she was in preschool, picked her up and took her, and it's like, my heart, you see this little head in this van, ooh, but, we got to know the drivers really well, and that, so there she was, to preschool, she was taken there. Now my husband was able to take her to school, and then we got rides, to her daycare afterwards. Then of course, then it got a little harder in middle school. Every year you kind of had to, but
Kind of
so
readjust
and try to, but again, just like any parent, you've got carpools to figure out, and who can take when,
Right.
and we were pretty lucky. My husband was able to take her in the mornings, and then it was just kind of after school. Okay, who can pick her up and take her to the sitter and whatever, and then I'd pick her up from there. But so
Well,
now
you
I'm
mentioned
retired, so I can do it,
it's
and it's such a
easier.
joy. It is
Yeah.
such a joy. I'm so glad to be able to do it.
Well, and you mentioned kind of the lack of physical barriers for her
Yes.
particular case, so
Yes.
that makes the transportation piece much easier.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Because if you're wheelchair bound or whatever, then that is going to be another issue.
Mhm.
But again, Grand Island is very, we're very fortunate here that we have those that are able to pick the kids up. Because I see the bus coming, out they come and off they go. And I mean,
Sure.
bless the bus drivers. Oh, bless the bus drivers. They do such a wonderful service. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's, and I mean,
It's
and
a
I
tough
see some
job.
parents drop their kids off too. I mean, but again, if you're working, you can't do that. So
Right.
that is a very important need.
Mhm, mhm.
But it is for every parent. I mean, transportation, getting your kid to school.
Sure.
Or to preschool, or
Definitely.
whatever.
Okay. Well, she's an absolute joy to have in our building, and I
Aw,
see her
thank
not
you.
every day. I haven't seen her yet today, but I think we see each other like next. I think it's towards the end of the day when we usually see each other.
Okay,
So we'll
I
see.
don't want her to see your mom.
Yeah, no,
No, she wouldn't care.
Yeah, but she's always smiling and cheering.
Oh, I am so glad.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. Because
She
like I
seems-
said, we work on those social skills, say hi,
And it was interesting, as we, like at the beginning of the semester, and I was to say hi, and she just, oh boy, that was just the thing, and then as it took her a while, but as a few weeks went by, a month, and then she kind of started being the one to
Well,
say it
and
first.
see, and that's true. I mean, she does kind of, usually Down's kids, they're so, well, she's not quite that way. She's kind of got to get to know you a little bit. So I'm sure she's probably thrilled. She's like, oh.
Well, and she's probably like most of our high schoolers here, honestly, that they're a little reluctant or shy as far as the communication with an adult or a teacher. Some of them are, outgoing, but a lot of them,
Yeah.
you say hi and they're kind of like, ooh,
Oh,
why are you talking to me? Hi.
I know. See that? Yeah. Well, because they're.
Oh, man.
I mean, that's it.
Those
Building those relationships is so important.